Elaine. Elaine? Elaine? Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, yes.
Okay, you hold on.
Yeah.
Can you see the slide?
Yes.
You can, okay, hold on. Okay, can. I think, Elaine,
Yeah.
in about 5 minutes time, you can let them come in because I'm going to play music.
You mean before 5 minutes, right?
Which means at about 6:45, you can let them come in and you can on the YouTube already.
Okay.
Elaine?
Yes.
I sign in another time as Frankie. Can you let me in first?
Okay, sure.
Let me in.
Oh, I saw it. Okay.
Just let me in.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Elena,
Yes.
were you able to hear my music just now?
Yes. Very clear.
How come on my laptop I can't hear it then?
Really?
I don't
I
know.
can hear everything is okay. Yeah.
Okay, you hold on. I'll
Okay.
just share screen again.
Okay.
Let's see whether you can hear or not. Don't know why I cannot hear I can't hear myself.
Can you hear? I can hear.
I can't hear.
Oh, but I think should
Never
go
mind,
like
never
because we are
mind.
sharing the music. Yeah.
Okay, I think you can let them in already now.
Okay. Okay.
Start the live stream now again, so no problem.
All right. Yes. Yes, Frank. Yes.
Hello, good evening, every one of you. Thank you so much for joining us. I am now trying to do a mic test. If you are able to help me, if you are able to hear me, could you help me by typing something into the chat room? Are you able to hear me loud and clear? Oh, that's good. Thank you so much, Adam. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks so much. If it is possible, I would like to invite all of you to try to, on your microphone, on your camera, so that I will be able to see all of you. It will be much more engaging if I can actually put a face to the name. Otherwise, it will just all be named to me, Thank you so much for joining all of us. We shall wait for just 1 or 2 more minutes because we are expecting quite a big crowd tonight. But it seems like there are only about 14 of you here. So what happened here is that let's just wait for a while more. At the meantime, if I could just get to know you all better. No worries at all, Nohashima, is it? Is that how I pronounce your name? No problem at all. I hope everything is okay with you. You are in the hospital now. I hope everything is okay. And I see Adam, you have switched on your camera. Adam, where are you from, Adam? Are you currently working? And would you like to on your mic and introduce yourself to the rest while we are waiting?
Currently, I'm working at MBA, Maritime Port Authority. And then I'm working as the IT strategy manager over there.
Wow, so you're an IT person, lah.
Partly.
So during circuit breaker, you were considered as the essential staff, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, in a way.
Had to go back to work, huh?
Yeah, we have to be on the front line for some reasons.
Yes, all right, Ken. Viv, are you in your office right now, Viv? Oh, I see that you're putting on your mask.
Okay, sorry. I'm still used to it already.
No problem. It's a good thing that you put on your mask.
I'm alone lah because the office, most of the staff has left already actually.
Oh, you are still in your office. What do you work as?
Yeah. Sorry?
What do you work as?
Oh, my company is actually doing much more of interior construction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's like, are you doing the residential or the commercial?
Commercial, I would say.
Okay, good.
Yep.
So, all right, now that the market is opening up, so you should be quite busy, lah.
Yeah, actually, yes.
Yeah, now that everybody is going back to the office to work, so
yeah, not necessarily a bad thing.
I always believe that but whether we like it or not, digital transformation is going to take place, whether we like it or not. So the earlier we get to know more about the digital technology and how things are going to change, the better it is for all of us. I mean, even for me, for example, this would have been done face-to-face pre-COVID.
Okay.
So now a lot of schools, even that I'm teaching in SIM, we haven't really gone back to face-to-face teaching yet. So we are starting next month.
Oh, okay.
And even so, to be honest with you, a lot of the students don't like it, They don't want to go back. A lot of the students. So it's just like, you remember circuit breaker time, we started, everybody complained working from home. They complained about too hot, no broadband, not enough, disconnected, everybody was complaining. Then we went into the phase where people got so comfortable working from home. Now you ask them go back office, they don't want.
Yeah, it's a matter of adapting. I think we took like almost more than a year to adapt. And then now you ask us to switch back, then a lot of people definitely will have resistance. But I think after the working from home and remote working, right, I think a lot of people start to, in a way, appreciate this sort of arrangement actually.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Okay, now we have about 14 already, so I don't want to hold your back because this whole session will probably take about 1.5 hours.
Okay.
So once again, thank you so much for joining us. Let's start off with a brief introduction of myself. My name is Frankie, and I have been a lecturer for many years. This will be my 26th year of teaching. What happened here is that I started off doing sales for a while when I was younger, and then I went on to do consulting jobs. And right now, I'm actually a full-time freelance lecturer, moving from one school to another school. So now I teach in 4 different places. Adventist is just one of them. And I teach in 3 other schools. So you name them, I have been there, PSB, MDIS, Kaplan, all the big schools. I've actually been there in the early years, in the 90s. I was actually teaching in informatics and all that. Again, those of you who just joined us, thank you so much for joining us. If it is possible, I would encourage you to switch on your camera so that we can actually look at you. And it will always be better for us to put a face to a name rather than, especially when I'm teaching on a Saturday or Sunday, I would like to see my students, otherwise I will fall asleep. So it is for my benefit, all right, that if you could switch on the camera for me. Thank you so much, Rachel. Now, just a little bit of background. I got a postgraduate diploma in marketing that was back in 1995, a long, long time ago. Actually, I'm not that young already. I'm already past 50, in my mid-50 already. So I also got a bachelor degree in economics, hated economics so much after that, never wanted to touch econs anymore. I only taught economics for about a year. Then I went on to do my master's degree with University of Birmingham. That would be somewhere in the late 90s, probably into the year 2000. And then during circuit breaker time, during the COVID period, I spent a lot of time upgrading myself, especially in the area of online teaching. So I'm actually certified in doing online teaching. I'm trained in online teaching. I spent 6 months attending whatever courses related to online teaching. So I kind of enjoyed online teaching a lot. I kind of enjoyed it very much. So I got a postgraduate certificate in learning and teaching, and also I got an ACLP. So I also spent some time doing training. So tonight's session, we are going to talk about business acumen. I want to achieve 2 things. Number 1 is to let all of you have a feel of what online learning is all about. And secondly, of course, also we want to introduce to you the concept of business acumen. All right, now we started off marketing, then marketing strategy, then strategic management. And nowadays we don't use the term strategic management anymore. In all those advanced, the more advanced, better university, they have changed the term from strategic management to now business acumen. Now it seems like it is a very big word. The word acumen seems like it's a very big word. Now what is basically business acumen is all about? It is basically about people with that kind of business sense. Now, not all of us have that. Unfortunately, about 85% of us, we are actually not business leaders. We are actually just workers or managers. That's about it. We are executors, so to speak. So many of us don't really have the kind of business acumen, but it's becoming more and more important, especially so when you want to lead a company. I always tell people this, it is very easy for us to start a company. And for that matter, all of us will be able to achieve some form of success the moment we start a company. The problem really is about sustaining the company, isn't it? How do we actually sustain that company? So a lot of us have very wonderful ideas, but how many of us can actually be as successful as, say, Apple, Facebook, so on and so forth? You look around us in Singapore, can someone just name me a made in Singapore global brand? The likes of Toyota, Honda, Samsung. When I ask you to name me a Japanese global brand, you can name me at least about 10 to 20 of them, isn't it? But I'm now asking you to name me a made in Singapore global brand. No, Adam, how can Old Chang Kee be a global brand? Old Chang Kee at best is only a regional brand, isn't it? So when global brand means everywhere you go, people talk about it, people know about it. So name me one made in Singapore global brand. I think Singapore Airlines is one of them. Isn't it, right? Singapore Airlines has to be because it is a global industry. So name me one made in Singapore global brand. You can't, isn't it? I teach strategic management so often, and this is how I start my strategic management lesson, by asking the students to name me one made in Singapore global brand. But I can tell you honestly, hardly students are able to do that. which is sad. So you really have to ask yourself the question, what is wrong with the Singapore entrepreneurs? We are very good in starting. But the problem here is that, are we able to grow the business? Are we able to actually sustain our competitive advantage? Actually have in Singapore, Secret Lab is quite popular. OSIM is also quite popular globally. Not everyone has heard of it, but we have global presence. So we actually have a few. But what's wrong with Singapore company? We boast so much about our education system. Singaporeans produce the best mathematician, we have the best scientists, our NUS, NTU are world ranked and all that. Then how come Singaporeans cannot create global brands? The like of Sony, the like of Hyundai, the like of Samsung, the like of Acer. Even Taiwanese can produce so many good, well-known global brands. But what about Singapore? What's wrong? So therefore, there must be something wrong with the way we do business, isn't it? And that has got something to do with the business acumen. Perhaps we are too comfortable in just following orders. Perhaps we are too comfortable living in our own comfort zone and we don't even dare to step out of it. All right, Ken? So I would like to start off by asking all of you to tell me, what do you think is the success of Apple? Why is Apple so successful? Now, Apple was never the first. It was never the first smartphone, because before we had Apple, we already had one generation of a smartphone called a PDA phone. You remember those days? We had a PDA phone. So therefore, what you see on the screen right now are the first generation of smartphone, really. All right. Then Apple saw what was actually available in the market and put everything into one gadget called Apple iPhone, and it changed the way we communicate. So the question I would like to ask you is, why do you think Apple is so successful? Now, you and I know for sure, come on, Apple phone is not even the best phone, isn't it? You and I actually know that Apple's phone is not even the best phone. Now, the question I would like to ask you is, what actually made Apple so successful? So shortly, what happened here is that I'm going to ask you to come to this screen. All right, I'm going to ask you to come to this screen. And then what you do here is that you can actually click on the plus sign. And when you click on the plus sign under subject, could you help me to type your name so that we know who you are? And then you explain to me why Apple is successful. All right, why Apple is successful. And then what happened here is that you just publish it. Everybody will be able to see it. Is that all right? So what I'm going to do now is that I am just going to cut and paste the URL code and put it into the chat room. So click on it, and then you should be able to, all right, write something. Okay. I'm just going to give you a few minutes. So Michael, if you think that innovation is the key, you just put there innovation. And it's a very interesting word, Michael. And we are going to spend more time talking about what innovation really is all about. Okay. So if you could just help me to do that.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Well, innovation is about what the, where the consumer trend moves. And with that, it's like what the people want now and into the future. It makes them more comfortable, especially the user experience or the user interface. And when people feel that, they are kind of, they feel much better than anybody else owning that product, and especially when the I is there in front of the phone, IPHONE. It builds about your self-esteem. Oh, this is what I own. This is something super that I have than anybody else's.
Yes.
It may be a little bit expensive, but you're also building a brand image with that.
Yes.
So innovation is all about change. And it brings about, what you call this, being bold into the market.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I cannot get anything right now, but if there is something that I would definitely pop in.
Sure. Thank you so much, Michael, for your contribution. Thank you so much for participating. And what about the rest of you? I only see 3 posts. Could you give us your name? Somebody wrote branding. Who was the person who wrote branding? You can actually give us your name. Who was the person? So I put here branding. Somebody mentioned branding, but I do need you to give me your name. All right. So if you could just give me your name. Adam say why Apple is successful. Because branding also. All right. So so what is so special about a brand, Adam?
Basically, is you can see from how they actually put up their product in terms of the advertisements and also in terms of how they actually brand it across to the global market. Yeah, it's actually more of a form of identity. When actually you get their product, there's identity involved with it. Actually, this identity makes you part of something like a global citizen kind of thing.
All right, good. So therefore, they have actually created something like a brand identity, a very strong identity, isn't it? Yes. All right. What else? So most of you say branding. Rachel, interesting point. You talk about premium price strategy. Was that the reason why they became successful? Rachel, would you like to on your mic to tell us?
Can I say something else?
Who is that, Michael? Is that right?
Yes,
sure, you can.
Also, the thing is, unlike Nokia, where Nokia has, catered to all sorts of customers, like even to the low level or to the ground level, what iPhone has done is used people's, demographics, psychographics, whatever, and they have catered only to a few, a targeted segment where it has made them go beyond any other company, and with that they have created a niche into the market, which has made them quite successful.
Yes.
And whenever you hear the word Apple, for them it means like this is the ultimate thing, that branding that has caught onto the people's mind over the period of years. Now Apple may be coming with something, having their own search engine, where it is about the timing into the market. Now Google has been dominating the search engine, but when people now will hear of Apple having their own search engine, they will see that Apple is something that it is a trustworthy product. We can rely on it, and
Yes.
that is what is going to make them more powerful into the market. It will be a huge competitive strategy even for other key players. And that's what I feel, that Apple is successful because they go into the minds, like consumer behavior, and then they do their market research, and that is what brings out the best in them. They know it is all about, in general, life is all about statistics, and it is about timing.
Michael, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your contribution. But Michael, we need to be very careful a few things that we have said, or rather that you have shared with us. Number one, I think, especially, I think you mentioned something like how Apple had a niche target. I think that was how they first started, Michael. They first started having a very niche market. Unlike Android, Android was more mass. So then we only had one size of handphone and only one price. But today is different. Michael, today you can see how Apple has come out with a whole suite of products catering to different people at different level of the market. So I think they have actually changed their strategy a little bit. And then what happened here is that I can see most of you are talking about products. We are actually talking about products. And remember this, that whenever we talk about strategy, we are actually not just talking about product per se. All right, whenever we talk about strategy, we are not really talking about product per se. What we are actually talking about is that we want to look at the kind of things that are actually going on in the mind of the business leaders. What do you think is happening in the mind of the business leader that make the company so successful? All right, so therefore, we must not forget that, all right, we must not actually forget that the success of Apple is attributed to, all right, Steve Jobs, isn't it? Steve Jobs has a very brilliant mind. So we have actually forgotten that the success of Apple was actually Steve Jobs. It is just like the success of Singapore is Lee Kuan Yew. Now, there is nothing wrong with us talking about the products. Obviously, there is nothing wrong with us talking about that, but we must remember whenever we talk about products, products can be easily copied. Isn't it? Products can actually be very easily copied by a lot of competitors, and competitors can copy you, and competitors will definitely copy you. But the one thing that competitors cannot copy is you, isn't it? And that's why business acumen is really not about the product. It's not even about the strategy, you know. It is about what is happening in the mind of the person who is coming out with that strategy that makes that person totally different. So if I were to say, Viv, you are somebody with business acumen, what am I talking about? I am actually talking about you thinking differently from other people, thinking out of the box, and innovation really is about you thinking out of the box. Isn't it? I mean, you can think about it. Later on, we will talk more about that. What is so big deal about Airbnb? Airbnb today is the largest accommodation provider, yet they don't even own one property. Now, that is what we mean by business acumen. Isn't it? What is so big deal about Alibaba? You go and think about it. Alibaba, all right, is just a fusion of eBay and Amazon.com put together, isn't it? And yet Alibaba today is the largest online retailer, but they don't even own one inventory, you know? Isn't it? They don't even own one inventory. So therefore, in this case, what happened is that you can see the person who is behind all these things must be somebody with that business sense, somebody who knows how to grow the business. And of course, if you're one of those, you will be earning billions and billions of dollars. The unfortunate thing is, many of us are not like that. Because many of us are prepared to take our monthly salary. You know, if the boss asks us to do this, we'll come up with a plan and you know, things like that. So what happened here is that you can see we need to move out of it. And it's becoming more and more important. You know why? Especially after COVID. All right, COVID has changed a lot of things. In fact, has changed everything. Right? All right, and if you still believe in the old way of doing things, then you will not even survive for the next 5 years. The company will not even be able to survive the next 5 years. Because after COVID, now we are talking about a global recession coming up next year. Isn't it? So as a result of that, we must start to think out of the box. The traditional way of doing business must change. The business model must change. So what is so special about Steve Jobs? You tell me. Number one, he understood the planning and the strategy. All right. And what happened here is that he knows how to put the operations together. All right. So what happened here is that Steve Jobs actually is somebody with that business acumen. Is that he's not a specialized person. He's not a specialist, but he is more of a generalist. He knows the general skills needed to run a company. And that's why I always encourage people to go and join an MBA, because an MBA will give you this general skill. Because you learn a bit about HR, you learn a bit about marketing, you learn a bit about operations. You know, a boss who is too sales-oriented, the operations will suffer. A boss who is too operations-oriented, the sales will suffer. So as a general manager, you need to know a little bit about everything, isn't it? Right? So therefore, I've never come across somebody who is a specialized general manager. A general manager must be a generalist, isn't it? Must be able to see, all right, the business from a wider perspective, so to speak. Okay, so put simply, a business acumen is just about you knowing where the opportunities are, where to grow the business, how to grow the business, think out of the box, and then the company will be able to grow and make money. So at the end of the day, the bottom line is that you want the company to sustain its profitability, isn't it? You can come up with the best product, but if you don't know how to sustain it, what's the point? Do you know that it was a Singapore company that invented the thumb drive? It was not Sony, it was not Toshiba, it was not the Americans who invented the thumb drive. It was a Singapore company that invented the thumb drive. Anybody knows what is the name of the company? Come on, Adam, you're an IT person. Anybody knows what is the name of the company? Adam, you shouldn't have told me you're an IT person, right? All right. Though you do not know, it is actually a small company in Singapore, located somewhere in Loyang, called Scandis. Have you heard of this brand name? This company, the thumb drive, the product name is called Scantrack. Have you heard of it? Now, they were the ones who invented the thumb drive. Even Singaporeans don't know that. So therefore, if you keep on create products and products and products, you are not able to sustain your business because nobody knows. Isn't it? Nobody actually knows about it. They just use the product. So it's not really just about the product. Because if it was really about the product, as you all have said it, then you shouldn't be buying Apple phone. Because Apple phone is not the best product, what? Isn't it? Apple phone is not the best smartphone. Isn't it? So therefore, really, are we talking about product here? We are really not talking about product. Isn't it? So what is business acumen basically? Individuals with business acumen, they have the following skills. Number one, they have an acute perception of the dimensions of business issues. Like I told you, they are very quick. They are able to predict what are some of the business problems. Number two, they can make sense out of complexity, which means when the market is complex, they are able to find opportunities in the threats. Even when the market is complex, they are able to find opportunity in the threats. You know, I like this saying. I actually like this saying. What happened here is that there was this Lee Kuan Yew actually said this. So, hold on, let me see what I can do today, sir. Okay, good. Lee Kuan Yew actually said this. Michael, and those of you who cannot understand Chinese for a moment, just bear with me for a moment. I'll explain to you what it is. Okay, I'll explain to you what it is. All right, Ken? So what happened here is that in Chinese, the word crisis, okay, the word crisis in Chinese is written like that. All right, pronounce Wei Qi. That's how we pronounce it. Okay, now that is the meaning of the word crisis in Chinese. Wei means danger. Qi means opportunity. So if you are somebody who is able to find that opportunity in the danger, then you deserve to win one. Isn't it? The unfortunate thing is that during a crisis, a lot of us are able to exploit that opportunity, but don't change the way we do business. Then the business is not going to be sustainable. I give you an example. During the circuit breaker time, you remember, one business that made the most money is those businesses that produce all those takeaway boxes. You know, when you go out you want to buy food, they have to put inside the box, isn't it? You know, that company located in Malaysia suddenly earned millions and millions and millions of dollars in a matter of 2-3 months. Isn't it? So that company was able to exploit the kind of opportunity that happened. It so happened that they were in the right business, all right, and the crisis actually happened. But what happened now? So they were busy producing the boxes, but they were not thinking about the business. They were not thinking about how they can actually change the business model. Then what happened to them now? There is no more demand for that one. Isn't it? You can think about it. Right? So therefore, the best strategies is not the person who will wait for the opportunity. The best strategies is the person who is able to create the opportunity. And that was exactly what Steve Jobs did. He did not grab the opportunity. He did not exploit the opportunity. He created the opportunity. You see that? There is a difference, isn't it? And that's what I want to achieve, all right, today. So therefore, we are able to make sense out of something that is very complex. And whether we like it or not, guys, the world is becoming more and more complex. Now, I would like to ask you to put on your thinking cap right now. All right, Singapore Airlines. Now, let's solve the problem for Singapore Airlines, shall we? Asian Airlines lost more than $60 billion in 2020. Just 1 year alone, the Asian Airlines lost $60 billion. SIA was losing about $45 to $50 million a day, you know, and that's how much they were losing. All right, at the peak of the COVID, where all the planes were grounded, they were losing $40 to $50 million a day. Now, if you are the CEO of SIA, and I can tell you most of us will think of what? No, cut cost. That was what happened to a lot of companies during the circuit breaker. Now, if you are the CEO of SIA, I would like to ask you the first question. What advantages does SIA have over its competitors in this region during the pandemic? So all airlines suffered, all planes were grounded, but what advantages do you think SIA has over its competitors in this region? Anybody would like to contribute? You can actually start on your mic and talk to me. It will be easier that way. Anybody? Come on, it's our national carrier. We should be proud of it, isn't it? What advantage do you think SIA has over its competitors? Strategic partnership with competitors like what, Adam?
Okay, so I was just thinking along the line of SIA being in this industry for so long. They, in order for them to actually get those so-called strategic routes and so-called those more competitive pricing in terms of the landing and stuff like that, they should have quite a bit of a strategic so-called alliances with all those companies that they are dealing with on a daily basis, especially in terms of things that is related to resources, right? They definitely have a. So by making use of these strategic alliances they have with all these companies, right? They can actually create for themselves maybe something like a because during COVID, right, a lot of things you can't really travel overseas, right? Then they could actually think about more of so-called inline travel or those maybe short trip travels within the region itself of Singapore. That's one way I can think of.
Okay, anybody else would like to contribute? The rest are very quiet. What about Altaf? Is it Altaf Lo Cheng Hung? Is it? Girish, would you like to contribute? Would you like to participate? Would you like to tell us your views? What do you think were the advantages of SIA during the pandemic when everybody was suffering? SIA was also suffering. So what do you think were the advantages? Anybody?
Hi.
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 I think they could like cut costs, as you say, right? Cost is very important. Then maybe they should reduce the number of work days. Of course, those students, all this, there's no way to fly, then there is no choice. So they are being deployed to like being to the ambassador or whatever. So that is one of the solutions that we has already SIA have been doing it, right? Other than that, like the ground floor staff, right? They could like reduce the work days from 5 days to 3 days or something like that. Then they will also help in cutting the cost of the SQ. That is what I think.
Okay, thank you so much for your participation. And I remember during the pandemic time where, like what Cheng Hung said, you know, the stewardess and stewards were deployed and they were working in all the restaurants and all that. And do you realize suddenly the quality of service, the standard of service improved so much because of all these stewards and stewardesses working in those restaurants, isn't it? The next question I would like to ask you is this: how would you see competition in the airline industry in the future? How would you see competition? Just now, Michael mentioned something about the need to get intelligence, isn't it? Right, Michael, you said that, isn't it? So how do you predict the airline industry will transform or change in the near future? How do you see competition? Do you foresee that competition is going to be the same pre-COVID, or the competition will be different post-COVID? Do you think the competition will be the same like before pandemic? Or do you think it will be very different? And if it is different, why? Why do you think it is different? Anybody would like to tell me anything? Girish? Girish, would you like to say something? Girish, are you there? Maybe the mic is not working, huh? No problem at all. I would like to encourage you all to participate because it is for my benefit. Otherwise, you know, it will be like me talking non-stop and then all of you will start falling asleep.
Actually, right, I'm thinking along the line of right now there's a lot of those Trip.com and all those airlines, companies that actually help to book tours and packages, right? So actually a lot of the trips that Singapore Airlines has, right, they could actually package or bundle with all these companies to make it more competitive, and also in the terms of the promotion, they can have joint promotion together as well.
Adam, you are not wrong, but there may be millions of things that SIA can do, but that is only short term. to bring in money, that's all. To bring in the revenue, that's all, you know. But we want to talk about the long-term sustainability of the company. Chongji, more targeted towards segmented customer base. Chongji, would you like to further explain? Are you able to on your mic, Chongji?
Oh, what I mean is that because the pandemic is actually in the near future, the pandemic is not totally over yet lah. So we actually, some of the countries like China, which is a very big customer base, is still succumb to this pandemic lah.
Yes.
And I think so in this case they will have to actually readjust their financial resources and their planes and their flights, so that they, as like certain countries like countries such as the region or the Europe, where the pandemic is slowly getting into the better phase, so we can have more frequent flights. While in China or in the US, where the pandemic is still lingering, the virus is still lingering over the population, so there might be less flights. So we need to readjust and then realign their towards their budget.
Yes,
that's
thank
what
you.
I mean.
So therefore, Chongji, you are of the opinion that SIA should slow down the growth lah. It's not the right time to grow yet. They have to be more prudent. They have to be more careful, and in the short term, they need to really watch how the industry dynamics might change.
Yes,
You're of that opinion lah. So don't chiong all the way, don't think of actually growing the business and growth, because this may not be the right time to grow the business. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yes, this is my opinion because I'm actually in view of that. I'm actually quite because I heard over the news that SIA is actually reactivating their flights over to long flights over to Japan, US, and all that. But these regions are actually still having pandemic in their countries, and then their population is still actually they're still, although the pandemic is like going into they're having their vaccination drive and all that, but the pandemic is still not over, and then the population they're still actually having this thing, people dying over this disease. And then I think SIA should actually have a view of that and then cut down their flights towards this region, because that will actually, carrying this kind of passenger will automatically make them becomes a carrier of the flu virus, and then it makes it actually bring down the business a lot, if that's the case. If they are not less careful of that.
Okay, thank you so much. The third question: being one of the best airlines and one of the most profitable airlines in the world, how would you prepare to grow the business in the future? So what new values can you create for the stakeholders post-pandemic? So what kind of values are you able to create post-pandemic? SIA is a compact airline even before COVID. That's right. So Altaf, you are absolutely right. So SIA is one of the most profitable airlines in the whole world. We have a lot of money, So guess what SIA did during the pandemic period? 2 years, we closed the borders. Guess what SIA did? If you have been following the news, what did SIA do? So the airports were closed, the aircrafts were all grounded. What did SIA do? SIA spent a lot of money. Yes, Rachel, you want to say something?
I think we actually changed the airport terminal into more digital and bring down the labor costs.
That is Changi Airport Group. I'm talking about Singapore Airlines.
They have.
Okay.
Now, what did Singapore Airlines do? Yes, Jason, they actually switched over to cargo. All right, they actually, because cargo was making a lot of money for them. All right, cargo was making a lot of money for them. But to prepare for the post-COVID, what did they do? I mean, you cannot close the borders forever, what? So SIA knew that one day the border was going to open up. So during the pandemic time, to prepare for the border to open up, what did they do?
Can I add something? I think they have actually changed their kind of dining instead on the flight. They have this kind of fine dining things that you can purchase, and also they have the KrisFlyer, which you can bought the thing online kind of things to have all this promotion to add into their so-called revenue.
Yes, but that was only temporary, Cheng Hong. It was only temporary for them to bring money in. You know, yeah, for them to bring money in. But I'm talking about post-COVID. What did they do during the pandemic time to prepare SIA to grow after COVID? So, Cheng Hong, your suggestions were right. I mean, your points were right. It was during that period of time they had to find ways to get money in. So they had fine dining on board. You know, they started to sell their wines online at a very low price and things like that to get rid of the old stock. You know.
Yeah.
So that was done for the purpose of bringing in money during the COVID time. But I'm now asking the question: what did SIA do during the COVID period to prepare itself for post-COVID?
Okay.
What did they do to prepare themselves for post? And you will then realize not many airlines dare to do that, you know. Jason, you are right. No? Jason, you are right. Some more. What did they do? What else did they do, Jason? Jason, you can't on your mic to talk to us. Jason, are you able to on your mic to talk to us, Jason? Okay, never mind. Okay, no worries at all. It's okay. All right, Ken. What did they do? You know, SIA invested a lot of money where? In retrofitting their cabins, you know. They upgraded the seats. They spent billions of dollars in changing their first class because all the planes were actually grounded. And that was the best time for them to invest in changing the seats in the first class, the business class, and economy class. So that when the border opens up, you have a new plane. You have new seats, new amenities, better services. The question I would like to ask is, how many airlines dare to do that? How many airlines actually dare to do that? You know, all the airlines were thinking about cutting costs, cutting costs, cutting costs. SIA was thinking how to spend money, you know. And perhaps that could be the reason why SIA will emerge stronger after COVID. See, the unfortunate thing is that during COVID time, whenever I talk to people, oh, cut costs, cut costs, cut costs, we need to cut costs. It's good, you cut costs. I mean, obviously, you need to make sure that you keep your costs low. Isn't it? SIA also focus on cutting costs, and they actually retrenched about, I can't remember what was the figure. I think about 20% of the staff were retrenched. And what happened was that they tried to keep you know, the workforce as lean as possible. They wanted to cut costs, and then they deploy all their staff elsewhere in the hospital, in polyclinic, and all that. Isn't it right? But at the same time, they were also thinking about what will happen to SIA after COVID. But at that point of time, all the companies in Singapore were thinking about during COVID, what should we do? But nobody were talking about what should we do after COVID. Isn't it? Nobody were talking about that. So therefore, even those schools that went to online teaching, you know, or even those schools that converted to online teaching, why did they do that? Cut costs, law. Don't need to rent classrooms, what? So we cut costs, isn't it? So the whole thing was about how to survive the COVID. But SIA at that point of time was already thinking about what should we do after COVID. But how many people dare to think about that? It's like I'm telling you, Rachel, all right, think about what will happen to you 10 years later when tomorrow you don't even know whether you have a job or not. But that was what SIA did. Correct, huh? So Adventist was also one of the schools that have very quickly moved to online. So they switched everything to online, you know. And what happened was, I remember about 1 year ago when we were still in the mid of COVID, where we were having heightened alert 1 or heightened alert 2. What happened was that I was talking to the boss, and the boss was, of course, all companies will need to think about how to reduce the cost. Even SIA had to do that. But the boss was already talking about post-COVID, what will happen to Adventist? Are we going to focus more online, or are we going to bring the students back to the classroom? See, if you start to talk in this way, then you will know that you will be more ready post-COVID. Isn't it? And that's now, you know, all look around you, all the companies are suffering now. They cut costs, cut costs, cut costs. Now suddenly market open, they cannot find staff, you know. Nobody work for them. They have difficulty looking for staff. So even if the business is there right now, what can they do? They can't do anything. Right? See, that's the problem, because a lot of us are only looking at now. But when you start to think about the future, what do we want the company to be in the future? Now, then that is when we start to say that you have business acumen. You look at all our politicians, our prime minister, all right, he cannot be just talking about now. During the COVID time, he was trying to fight the COVID, but at the same time, he was preparing Singapore post-COVID. Isn't it? So that Singapore will become stronger after COVID. And that's why Singapore is not badly affected when we open up the market and open the borders. We are okay. Isn't it? Because we already started to prepare for a better time while we were still in the crisis. We already started looking for the opportunity while we were still in the crisis. So Singapore Airlines did exactly the same thing. Avantis did exactly the same thing. So right now, post-COVID, Avantis, we are still doing a lot of these kind of online things, you know. All right, we are still doing a lot of this kind of online networking, online teaching, and so on and so forth. And, you know, we are okay. Isn't it? So therefore, we will continue to do that. And then we will start to think about how we can create more values. All right, SIA will have to think about how they can create more values post-COVID. Is that okay? See, the problem with a lot of us is that we only look at the now. It is important. But what is even more important is the future. Because you can solve the problem now, but the strategy that you use in solving the problem now will create a bigger problem for the future. What I'm trying to say here is that you can solve this, you can come up with a solution now. The same solution is going to create a bigger problem for you in 2 years' time. Then in this case, you don't, exactly, Michael, it is about sustainability, isn't it? Exactly, Adam, all right, you know about Blue Ocean strategy. That's good. Leaders must be decisive. Isn't it? Very often the company, all right, will depend very much on the leader's direction. The unfortunate thing is that a lot of leaders are not decisive. Ladies and gentlemen, can I tell you this, that there is a difference between, all right, that there is a difference between being decisive and being, being decisive and being impulsive. There is a difference, all right? All right, there is a difference between being decisive and being impulsive. Now, then you look at a lot of your managers, or maybe perhaps yourself and myself, when we make decisions, are we being decisive or are we being impulsive? Are we allowing our own emotions, all right, to affect our decision making? That's the question that we need to ask ourselves. We must be flexible and be agile. Your whole business model will have to change. And this is where the problem is with a lot of our Singapore family-run business. Isn't it? They are still talking about how their grandfather came from China, make 1 cup of coffee at Tanjong Pagar, and today it's called Yakun. You know, so therefore they are still talking, they are still living in the old world, you know, isn't it? But the world has changed. And that's why I always tell all my colleagues, because I took it, I actually went for upgrading. So I spent 6 months learning about online teaching and all that. And it opened up a totally new world to me, you know, totally new world. And I actually told all my colleagues whenever I have a chance to meet up with them for lunch, I said, you know, the world that we lived in before COVID, walking into the classroom with a remote control, click from slide to slide to slide, that world is gone and gone for good. It will never come back anymore. Isn't it? Right? So therefore, we need to change the way. So a lot of my colleagues are still waiting for the time where everybody go back to the classroom. All right, we start writing on the board. Come on. You know, schools are now investing in smart boards, you know. So we have chalkboard to whiteboard to glass board. Now it's called smart board. Isn't it? So therefore, if you don't change, you don't embrace digital technology, you will be left behind, because the world that we live in before COVID is already gone and gone for good. Isn't it? So businesses will need to change. Businesses will need to transform. All right, next one. You are mindful of the implications. I like this word, of the choice that you make. Now, in life, we make a lot of choices, but because of limited resources, we can only choose one. All right, there are many choices that we can make, but because of limited resources, we can choose one. And tonight, I'm going to introduce to you something that is very important, especially at the strategic level. How do we actually make decisions? How do you make decisions? All right, this is what we call the prospect theory. I'm not too sure if you know, you have heard of this before. All right, the prospect theory. All right, exactly, Michael. All right, it is a behavioral model that explains how people approach decisions that involve risk. Now, you must understand that whenever we actually talk about making decisions or making a change, there will always be risk involved. All right, there will always be risk involved. The question here is this, what is our approach toward risk? Now, Singaporeans, we have this word called kiasu, isn't it? We are afraid of losing. Now, this theory actually holds that people prefer to minimize loss over taking on additional risk or uncertainty for potential gains. So, therefore, it is almost natural that we actually want to minimize losses when we make decisions. So whatever decision that we make, what we have in mind, minimize losses. So cut costs is to minimize losses. I would like to ask you this question. Let's look at the screen now. Option A, 50% of chance, you have a 50% chance of winning $1,000 or 50% chance of losing everything. That is option A. So it's either, all right, you win $1,000 or you win nothing at all. Or you have option B, 100% chance of winning $500. The question I would like to ask is this, which option will you choose? Will you choose option A or you choose option B? Will you choose option A or will you choose option B? You have option A, remember, 50% chance of winning 1,000 or 50% chance of winning nothing. Option B is guaranteed you will win $500. So which option will you choose? All right. So anybody else? Anybody else? Surprisingly, most of you chose option A. Rachel, did you choose option A or B?
B.
Why?
Because you already tell you it's 100%.
It's 100%, isn't it? You will at least get $500 lah.
Yeah.
All right, Adam, did you choose A or B?
I think most people can guess that I'm pretty much on the A side.
Why?
I think I'm more of a risk taker rather than a conservative person.
Okay, what about Jason? Jason, did you choose A or B?
I choose A
Why?
because nothing to lose. You start from nothing, then either you win 1,000 or you lose nothing at all.
Okay, what about, but there is a guaranteed chance that you might win 50, you will win $500, you know. At least you will walk away with $500.
Yeah, but if you identify a bigger opportunity, why you settle with the lower?
Okay, good. All right. Chongji, what about you, Chongji? What was your
I actually choose B lah, but there's also a probability of A because based on probability statistics that half I still get back $500 for option A. So
Yes.
both is actually getting $500 lah. It's just that the risk portion, whether I can mitigate or whether I'm risk averse enough to choose A.
So you chose B, is it?
So if I want to mitigate the risk, I'll choose B lah. But if I'm more risk averse, then I'll choose A. So okay. So now my case is that since I cannot although I choose B but I cannot mitigate the risk lah. I'm not confident of mitigating the risk to some other parties so I will choose A lah.
Okay, Viv, what about you, Viv? Did you choose A or B, Viv?
I actually chose A. So I'm kind of like with Jason, he shared, it's like nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose, isn't it?
Yeah.
But let's put another 2-0 behind it. All right, let's put another 2-0 behind it. It's either you win $100,000 or you win nothing, or guarantee you will get 50,000. Which one will you choose? Maybe $500 is a bit too small.
Yeah,
Now
I think the value affects it also.
Yeah. So let's now raise the stake.
Okay.
All right, let's now raise the stake. It's either you win 100,000 or you win nothing, or option B, guarantee you will get 50,000. Which one will you choose? Would you all like to try again now? Now we raise the stake. Would you like to try again? All right, are you able? So let's now raise the stake. And then I will just have the poll again. All right, we will now have the poll again. And let's see. All right, we raise the stake now. Okay, so therefore now, which decision will you make? So therefore, choice one is either 100,000 or nothing. Choice B is guaranteed 50,000. So the question I would like to ask is now, which one will you actually choose? Okay. What happened? Okay, good. Come, let's try again. Still, a lot of you are choosing A. A lot of choosing A. All right, okay. So now you see how the poll decision, the outcome has changed. So 50% say 100,000 or nothing. 50% say you want to go for guaranteed 50,000. So you see how the decision has changed now. So majority now are choosing option B. Isn't it? Majority is now choosing option B. All right, so just now majority actually chose option A, but now majority is choosing option B. The question I like to ask is, why is that so? What caused the change? See, under normal circumstances, to be honest with you, under normal circumstances, most of the people will choose option B. You know why? Because there's a guarantee, right? But of course, Adam is a risk taker. All right, Adam is a very suicidal person. All right, very risk taker, is either win everything or lose or win nothing kind of thing. But not all of us are that extreme. Adam, you belong to the 10%. All right, you belong to the 10%. All right, that is extreme. Why most of us in the second situation actually chose option B? Because that is a rational decision. That's a logical decision. Right? Correct now. Getting $50,000 is better than getting nothing. Why do you want to take the risk of getting nothing? Because option A, you actually take the risk of losing everything. But option B, there is a guarantee, right? Isn't it? So therefore, most of us will make a decision based on what? Based on guarantee. Not all of us, in fact, majority of us are not like Adam. Isn't it? Majority of us are not like that. So it is logic that prescribes how decision should be made. But you know something, Adam? All those successful businessmen, the things that they do have absolutely no logic. You know, the things that they do actually have absolutely no logic at all. All right, absolutely no logic at all. So therefore, in this case, all right, we talk about the prospect theory and look at how it actually works. And then you tell me, using the prospect theory, applying to your daily way of making decision, whatever decision that you make. All right, and then you will see whether are you making decision out of impulse or are you somebody who is making decision using a very rational, logical way of thinking. So the prospect theory actually suggests to us how humans actually make risky choices, risky decisions. All right, so therefore Adam is somebody who is considered as being irrational. But Adam, can I tell you this, a story? All right, those of you who chose A, can I tell you a story? You know Jack Ma, the Alibaba guy? He was an English school teacher back in the 90s in China. And then those of you who know China well will know that teachers in the public school, they earn pittance, they earn nothing at all, you know. All he had was just a dream. All he had was actually just a dream. And he invited 25 of his friends to his house, all right, to actually talk about his dream, you know. And what happened was that all his friends laughed at him and told him, look, you got no money, come on, go back to the school and become an English teacher lah. You know, don't bother about it and all that. But you know what? He actually told his friends, I know I'm poor, you know, but if I have nothing to lose, if I'm poor, I have nothing to lose. So he went ahead and took that risk. He took that risk. You know, in Malaysia, there is this guy called, I can't even remember his name, the guy who started AirAsia.com. What's his name? Anybody know? AirAsia.com, the guy who started AirAsia.com, what's his name? I suddenly cannot remember his name. He used to be my hero so much, you know. Let me just...
Tony something, is it?
Sorry?
Tony Fernandez.
Tony Fernandez. That's right. Thank you so much, David. All right, Tony Fernandez. He was a pilot. He emptied his saving account. He actually emptied his saving account. And then what happened was that he went to buy over a bankrupt company, a defunct company called AirAsia.com with only 2 propeller jets. He went down knocking on the doors of the banks, asking the banks to lend him money. But no banks believe in him. How can the budget airline compete with a national airline called Malaysia Airline? How is it possible? Isn't it? But you know something, guys? All right, today AirAsia.com is one of the most successful budget airlines in the world. Isn't it? So how did that actually happen? Because they dare to take the risk. They are not afraid of losing. But most of us are. Come, let's apply the prospect theory. The question I would like to ask is this: are we always rational in our decision making? The answer is no. Because most of us are actually impulsive. We got emotions, right? So when you make a decision, are you making a decision based on your own impulse? Or you are actually based on your own logical thinking? Most of us are actually not logical, unfortunately. What heuristics influence our decisions? What are heuristics? Emotions. All right, our mind, the emotions in our mind, you know, our mindset, all these things will influence our decisions. Now, let's look at an example. Let's look at an example, you and your friend. Okay, now let's say, for example, you now won $5 million. Your friend won $10 million and then lost $5 million. So the end sum is both of you actually got $5 million. You started with nothing. Your friend started with nothing. All right. Now both of you won money. You won $5 million, you stopped. Your friend won $10 million but didn't want to stop, continue, and then what happened? Lost $5 million. So in the end, both of you actually ended up with $5 million. All right, you are actually equal. The question is, who of the two person will be happier, you or your friend? I'll give you a few seconds to go and think about it. Remember, both of you actually ended up with the same amount of money, $5 million. Who of the two will actually be happier? Is it you or your friend? Jason said the friend will be happier. Jason, why? Why do you think the friend will be happier, Jason?
Because he reached 10 million before.
He reached 10 million, but he lost 5 million. You didn't lose anything, what?
Yeah, if you reach 10 million and you lost 5 million, I mean, what's the difference of you still have 5 million and then 5 million is become a numbers to you. Maybe it's no longer like a monetary measurements to you compared to you're holding on to 5 million, you can't afford to lose anything. So he dared to venture out, get a thrill, test out everything that he wanted, and then there's a higher probability that he will earn more asset or gain more wealth.
Okay. You know why am I asking all these questions? I'm trying to find out what is actually in your mind. All right, how do you actually make certain decisions? And obviously, all right, people like Jason, who said that the friend will actually be happier, his thought process will be very different from Rachel. Rachel, you say you will be happier. Why?
Because to me, I never lost.
Yes, to you, you didn't lose anything, right? Correct or not?
Yeah.
But to Jason's point is, hey.
But for me, to me, is if I don't lose and I gain a 5 million, which means that my next move, I may gain another 5 million again.
And who else? Any other viewpoints? Chongji, would you like to say something, Chongji?
Because I can see that I'm happier because I gained 5 million and then I actually have on a better position to better position as well. I can have better prospects of moving on to the next 5 million. But as well, if I'm if I'm my friend and then I gain 10 million, I lost 5 million. There's reasons of losing the 5 million, and the prospects of gaining another 10 million will be the chances are slimmer in that case.
Okay.
So I'll find that I'll be actually more pessimistic than optimistic.
All right. Can you all hear for yourself that both are giving very different kind of answers? What about Viv? Who will be happier, you or your friend?
I think my friend.
Why?
Because he gained 10 million, that's the first thing. He didn't lose entirely everything. He still have another 5 million with him. And probably this 5 million will also still be able to gain him the 10 million eventually.
I'd just like to ask you all and be very honest. Don't have to worry. All right. Yeah. I just like to ask you all this question. Have you all been to a casino before? Have you all been to the casino before?
No chance.
No chance. Never been there. Huh? Come on, even Singaporeans, like you can go on the cruise, man. Or have you ever gambled before, like when you were Chinese New Year time and all that kind of thing? It is like you were winning. What am I doing? You were actually winning a lot of money, all right, but you refuse to leave. And then when you continue gambling, you end up losing the money. And then you start to tell yourself, I was so stupid. When I won the money, I should have lied. Has that happened to you all before? Has that happened to you all before? You know, you were actually winning $1,000, but you refuse to leave. And then you continue gambling, and then you end up losing money. And then you tell yourself, yeah, I should have actually stayed on. I should have actually left when I won $1,000. Isn't it? Right? What I'm trying to say here is that now there are two groups of answers. One say that the friend will actually make more money, or the friend will be happier. The other one actually says that you will be happier. So the question now here is that, sorry. Hello. Hey, how come I can hear my voice? All right, the question now I'd like to ask is, who is more right? Who is the more rational decision maker? Who is actually the more rational decision maker? According to the prospect theory, all right, they will suggest that we actually value gain and loss very differently. As we can see in this class, some people value gain more. All right, those people who value gain more will say that, all right, if I gain 10 million and lose 5 million, I still win. But the fact here is that most of us actually feel more pain when we lose, Isn't it? We actually feel more pain when we lose. So therefore, according to the prospect theory, the one who will actually be happier is actually you, because you didn't lose anything. Isn't it? Because you didn't lose anything. But your friend actually lost 5 million. So therefore, most of us will say that we will be happier because we didn't lose anything. But my friend actually lost 5 million. So then we will start to tell our friend, yeah, when you won $10 million, you should have stopped. Why didn't you stop? And so on and so forth. Isn't it? So therefore, the prospect theory actually say that the way we look at gain and losses very differently. All right, now later on, we will apply that to business and then you will see how it works. All right, what is the emotional feeling in the different scenarios? Increase from 0 to 100, increase from 10,000 to 10,100. Both actually gain 100. Who will be happier, the first person or the second person? Who will be happier? Is it the first person or the second person?
First person.
It will be the first person because 0 to 100, isn't it? Right? But both actually gain 100. Now, versus the losses, decrease from 0 to negative 100, decrease from $1,350 to negative 1,450. Both actually lost 100. But who will feel the more pain? The first one or the second one? Who will feel more pain? Is it the first one or the second one? It's actually the first one. Is it that the first one will feel more pain? But actually, you look at it, both actually lost 100, and both gain 100, but one will be happier than the other, one will be more sad than the other, isn't it? Right? But if you look at it mathematically, both actually are the same. Both of them are actually the same, isn't it? So now we want to look at how we can present the prospect theory diagrammatically. Then I'll put it into the right perspective for you in business, and you will look at how it works. So psychological value means how much emotional weight we apply to something. Are we happy or are we not happy? To what extent will we be happy, and to what extent will we not be happy? So everything starts from zero. Let's look at the gain curve first. All right, let's look at the gain curve. All right, when we gain something, now this is what we call the function line. All right, it's totally, all right, you look at it, it's actually a curve. What it means is this, as we move from 50 to 100 to 150 to 200, our emotional feeling is very different. All right, let's look at it. So for example, from 0 to 50, all right, we become happy at this level. All right, we become very happy at this level, but we increase from 50 to 100. All right, versus all right, look at it, the gap is very big. We are very, very happy. As we increase from 50 to 100, we are very happy, versus increasing from 250 to 300. We also gain 100, but now we are less happier. We are still happy, but compared to the time where we increase from 50 to 100, all right, we will see that from 250 to 300, all right, we are actually less happy. So we can see the psychological change. The more positive feeling is greater when you increase from 50 to 100, isn't it? Than when you increase from 250 to 350. See, when you have 250 and then you gain another $50, you will still feel good, but it doesn't feel as good as the $50 you gain from 50 to 100. So our emotions will change, isn't it? Now then the next thing here is that we want to look at the loss. What we have just done is that we only look at the gain function. Now let's look at the loss function. So this is actually gain. Now let's look at the loss. All right, now let's look at the loss. All right, so you notice that this curve is actually steeper. Now let's look at it. All right, let's look at it. Now let's say now you have lost $50 and you lose another $50. So therefore, all right, you remember this is psychological value and not the actual value of the money that you gain or lost. It is the feeling. All right, it is actually the feeling. So from 0, you lose $50. You look at it, the gap is very wide, compared to you losing another $50 after you have lost 50. All right, so what happened here is that you can see how the gap, all right, is very wide here compared to now. You lost $150 and then you lose another $50 and you see the gap is smaller. Can you see that? So what we are trying to say here is this: the first $50 that you lose, you will feel very unhappy. You will feel very, very unhappy compared to you already lose so much. And then you lose another $50, you don't feel anything at all. This was exactly what happened to Alibaba, Jack Ma. This would probably happen to Adam Cole. But Alibaba, Jack Ma said this: I have nothing to lose with. I've already lost so much. So I lose another $50, what's the problem? Tony Fernandez, the same thing. He emptied his saving account. He has already lost so much. And then what's the problem with me losing more? I have nothing to lose. So what happened here is that he didn't feel so unhappy. So what happened? All right, you can see that Jack Ma and Alibaba, it's just Jack Ma and Tony Fernandez, they were here. And because of that reason, they were prepared to take more risk. You understand that they were actually prepared to take more risk in that sense. So if you were to look at it right now, all right, so therefore $50, when we lose $50, what happened here is that, all right, the change in the emotional feeling is great. Versus when we gain $50, the change in the emotional feeling is smaller. Now, if I were to look at it diagrammatically, all right, you can see loss is more painful than gain. Isn't it? Loss is more painful than gain. All right. So what happened here is that if you were to look at it very carefully, all right, the prospect theory is this. Number one, the prospect theory describes how if you have no money, the psychological impact of losing 100 is much greater. If you have no money at all right, than gaining that 100. So if you lose money, but if you lost everything, then you lose another $100, chances are you won't feel anything at all. You won't feel any pain because you have already lost so much, and therefore you are prepared to take more risk. But if you have $1 million, the psychological impact of losing 100 is much lesser, which means if you are rich, if you lose $100, you won't feel anything at all, isn't it? And therefore, guys, if you look at it, this makes sense to us, isn't it? For example, if you are somebody who can afford to buy a Lamborghini at $1.5 million, and then they ask you to add another $5,000 more, all right, they ask you to add another $5,000 more to upgrade the audio system. Chances are you don't feel anything because you already paid $1.5 million worth. But the strange thing is when you go online and do shopping, do online shopping, and then when Shopee charge you $2 delivery fee, you start to think maybe I should go and look at Lazada. Lazada waived at $2. How come $2 you feel so much pain? But $1.5 million, you buy a car and then pop up 5,000, you don't feel any pain at all. So therefore, guys, listener, this is important. That probably explains why SIA dared to make that risk during COVID time when everybody was actually cutting costs. SIA was spending money, isn't it? Because SIA is rich, right? So therefore, in this case, they were prepared to spend the money to prepare themselves for post-COVID time. Does it make sense to all of you? Does it make sense? So therefore, the way we actually look at gain and loss will depend on to what extent are we prepared to take the risk. To what extent are we prepared to take the risk? So therefore, in this case, just now I asked you, those of you who chose option A, chances are you are more willing to take risk. All right, chances are you are more willing to take risk. But option B, the decision that you make will be very calculated. You will calculate everything, you know. And then what happened here is that for all you know, you may end up losing certain opportunities. You never know that, isn't it? Because you are always calculating. Come, let's move on. So business acumen framework, 4 things. Number 1, you need to have financial literacy. See, whenever I teach my students in MBA, I always tell them finance is perhaps the most important. After all, business is all about money. Now, if you don't even know how to read the financial statement, then the whole company will be in serious trouble, isn't it? All right, so therefore you need to know a little bit about finance. Unfortunately, this subject is always the most feared subject in an MBA course. Functional business savvy, you must know sales, you must know marketing, you must know HR. More importantly, you must have that GM thinking, able to see the whole picture. Not all of us are able to do that. And that's why if Viv, you are in HR, you only see HR. Adam in IT, he only see IT. Rachel, if you are in finance, you only see finance. Now, the whole company cannot function like that. The CEO must be able to see everything. Isn't it? He must know a little bit about everything. The unfortunate thing is a lot of us are too specialized in our own area. All right, we become too specialized in our own area and we don't get to see, all right, the whole picture. That's the problem. Enterprise value mindset. This is where I told you, isn't it? Innovation comes in, business-mindedness. You dare to spend money when everybody is cutting costs. You dare to do it, all right, Ken? Because you know that you believe in your own vision. So the entrepreneurs are the risk takers. The entrepreneurs are those people who choose option A. You either win 10,000 or you don't win anything at all. Isn't it? But most of us are not like that. Isn't it? Most of us are not like that. Well, most of us will choose option B because at least there is a guarantee for us to win something. So there are altogether 4 important things that you need to know. Financial literacy. To run a business, financial, functional, business savvy, GM thinking, and enterprise value mindset. Now, I'd like to ask you to do something, all right, Ken? Of these 4, can you tell me which one are you, where are your strengths, and which one are you strongest, and which one are you weakest? And be very honest, all right, which one are you the strongest, and which one are you the weakest? All right, so for example, if you think that you are very strong in finance, then you'll put finance as the first. If you think you are the weakest in terms of enterprise value mindset, which means risk-taking, you dare to take risk, then you will put that as the last. So what I need you to do is now take out your handphone. All right, you can either scan the QR code and then rank all these 4 things, or you can type on your computer www.menti.com and then you key in the code 43516653. All right, you have to key in the code 43516653 and rank which one do you think you are the strongest and which one you think is the weakest. So for example, for me, I would probably think that functional business savvy will be number one for me. That's why I'm a teacher, I'm not a CEO. Probably financial literacy will be the last. You know, so what happens is that you rank it and I'll wait for you for your answer. All right, come, let's look at what you wrote. Interestingly, all right, come, let's look at let's see the answer. Interestingly, most of you rank yourself as strongest in GM thinking, which is very good. All right, which is very good. Financial literacy is always the last. All right, Ken. So I would like to ask just maybe some of you to share with us, why would you rank it in this way? Michael, what was your ranking, Michael? Which one did you rank as number one?
Well, I've just typed it into the chat. The first one is functional business savvy. Second is GM thinking. Third is financial literacy. And the last one is enterprise value mindset.
And Michael, would you mind me asking you, what do you work as right now, Michael?
Well, currently I don't have any job, but I do have good business acumen. I like to see the whole picture. You know, I like to take risks.
Okay.
And because when you first said, you know, it's like like losing 5,000 is nothing compared to gaining 500. But on the other side, you know, like 100,000 losing but gaining 50,000. You see, it depends on where you are standing right now. 50,000 is somewhat, you know, it's right in between. It's where you are in your strategic level thinking compared to operational or tactical.
Yes.
That was my thinking.
That's very good, Michael. What about Jason? Jason, what was how did you rank yourself, Jason?
I put the enterprise value mindset as number one, then followed by GM thinking, then functional, then financial.
You know, Jason, for that kind of ranking, which means that you are actually a risk-taker, you know, Jason. Chances are you are very...
I'm a regional sales, so my main job is to grow sales.
Oh, okay.
Find new business opportunity.
That's good.
Constantly think out of the box and adopt the conventional way. It's very difficult to become the leader from the market itself.
Okay.
And all this kind of thinking.
Sure. And obviously you have been have you been traveling around these days?
Yeah, I already start traveling.
Really, huh? I haven't even traveled because the air ticket is ridiculously expensive.
But for sales wise, because we weigh the investment over the return, so definitely as a first mover to the market now, when the pandemics end, definitely we want to be the first mover in the market and to be close to the business prospect. So that's why we find that even the expenses of the traveling is high, it's definitely worth the return.
All right, good. All right, thank you so much. So now roughly you will know what kind of business sense do you have? All of us will say that we are capable, but in reality, are we really that capable? All right, in reality, are we really that capable? So therefore, now you know what are the things needed for us to be able to run a business. Now, why do you think business acumen is becoming important? Number one, it gives a clearer focus, all right, on things that are strategically important. Now, I think this is something that we need to talk about. What are strategically important decisions? They are those decisions, once you make them, you cannot change, you know. All right, if you change them, it is going to cost the company a lot of money. So Jason is doing sales. Jason, if you set the wrong price, can you change? Yes. If you come up with the wrong advertisement, can you change? The answer is yes. But if you were to buy over a wrong company, how to change that? So CEOs are involved in buying companies, forming strategic alliances and all that, isn't it? So the CEO of a company should not be sitting in the office thinking whether the customers are happy or not happy. That is Jason's job. He is doing regional sales. The CEO of a company will be thinking, should I buy over this company? Where should I invest? And so on and so forth, in order for us to get more money for the shareholders. Now, these are strategically important decisions that once you make them, you cannot change it. And therefore, it goes back to just now when we talk about risk-taking. Do you dare to take the risk? But of course, I'm not asking you to be suicidal. All right? Of course, you will also need to make sure that you are doing the right thing. Isn't it? But what I'm trying to say here is that if you are somebody who don't dare, you are risk adverse, chances are your business is not going to grow. Isn't it? So therefore, people with business acumen, chances are they are the ones who dare to take the risk. Remember, I told you right from the beginning that you are able to create that opportunity even at the time when everybody says that it is too risky. Isn't it, right? Next one, responding to the changes in environment, and this is becoming more and more important. Especially post-COVID, I think the pace at which it is changing is faster and faster and faster. You must be able to create a totally new market. This is where Adam talked about blue ocean strategy, isn't it? All right, you must be able to create that new market. Even before competitors go in, you must be able to create that. So all these things coming up on the screen, you can see at one time, all of us thought that it was crazy, not possible. Isn't it? It's not even possible. For example, in Singapore, we actually did a trial run. First air taxi trials took place in Singapore in 2019. Singapore driverless bus. Now, all right, they are actually driving around NTU. Vacuum train will bring passengers from NYC to LA in 45 minutes. So in the future, do you think it is possible for space travel? Just imagine what augmented reality technologies, AR technologies can do in the future for companies. You know, this was so important, guys. You know why? During the pandemic time, Disneyland Hong Kong got into trouble. You know, Hong Kong, all right, they are still under a lot of restrictions, isn't it? People couldn't visit the theme park. They lost a lot of money. So what did they do? They created a website, virtual theme park, using all these technologies to augment, to enhance, to recreate that magical experience, but now online. And that's what we are trying to do now, using technology to create that experience better than face-to-face teaching. So companies that don't invest in technology, they will be in trouble. So at one stage, we all thought that all these were not possible, you know. But look at what happens. Somebody made it happen. Isn't it? Look at all these. Uber, world's largest taxi company, owns no vehicle at all. Isn't it, right? Facebook, world's most popular media owner, creates no content at all. Next one, Alibaba, world's most valuable retailer, no inventory at all. And like I told you just now, Airbnb, world's largest accommodation provider, but they own no real estate at all. So therefore, when we talk about business acumen, we are actually talking about the entrepreneurial spirit in you. Now, I don't have. I'm teaching this, but I'm telling you, I don't have. If I run the company, chances are it will be very traditional, very conservative. Isn't it? But I'm glad to see that some of you, through your answers to my questions and through participating in the activities, I can actually see that some of you actually have that. The only thing is that probably the timing is not right. So you wait for the right time, you go in and you're going to make it very, very rich. Isn't it? Right? So therefore, in this case, you are somebody who must have that vision. Isn't it? And more importantly, you must be able to convince people that your vision is right. Look at this guy called, you know him, right? Elon Musk from Tesla. Isn't it? He said this, anyone can move to Mars and gas cars will be like steam engines. So what happened here is that he's that kind of crazy man, honestly. All right, he actually sent a car to the space, you know. He actually sent his car to the space. He said that one day there will be space travel. All right, and he came up with this idea called a hyperloop. You've heard of it? It's like a cabin. You sit in a cabin and they suck you from one end to another end. All right, now I'd like you to quickly watch a video and you will understand what hyperloop is all about. And then you just imagine, is this possible linking Singapore to Kuala Lumpur and beyond? Okay, let's watch.
In the beginning, it was about instinct, moving from place to place, initially for survival, then to pioneer. Today, we travel because we can. On vacation to business meetings, from point A to point B isn't just a car ride. It's a train, it's a plane, and soon even a space flight away. But what about efficiency? There's a gap between imagination and actualization.
You can go anywhere on Earth, anywhere. Like you can actually go to like the top of Mount Everest. There's no place you can't go, anywhere. So I think we've explored the boundaries, at least the physical boundaries of Earth, quite thoroughly.
You're describing how we can go anywhere on Earth now, but the methods with which we use to get there, do you think they're efficient?
The most important thing that needs to happen is the transition of transportation to electric. The ideal long-distance transportation mechanism is a supersonic vertical takeoff and landing electric jet. And then there's a special case of cities which have a lot of travel between them, below about 500 miles of distance, where I think the Hyperloop would be useful. It is a special case solution, because once the distances get long, then the amount of time that an aircraft takes to ascend and land, which is most of what it does in a 500-mile trip, that percentage declines, and then it's better to just use aircraft. I know that there are various companies that are trying to create the Hyperloop, and honestly, I think it's a lot easier than people think.
The blueprints are pretty complicated.
Well, blueprints are always kind of complicated, and I mean, yes, there's math, but it's really not that hard.
It still sounds pretty complicated, Elon.
It's like a tube with an air hockey table. It's just a low-pressure tube with a pod in it that runs on air bearings, on air skis, with an air compressor on the front that's taking the high-pressure air buildup on the nose and pumping it through the air skis. It's really, I swear, it's not that hard.
So you see, now he came up with this dream, all right, that he wanted to build the Hyperloop, and it is found to be cheaper than building the high-speed rail, you know. So is it possible that one day Singapore and KL will be linked to the Hyperloop? And then we can be sucked from Singapore to KL within 20 minutes, we can reach. And this is exactly what business acumen is all about. Everybody is saying that, you know, Elon Musk is a crazy man. Just like how everybody said that Tony Fernandez, before he even started the company, he would fail. How can you be competing with Malaysia Airlines, which is supported by the government? and then you are flying people from Singapore to Kuala Lumpur, charging them $20 per ticket. How is it possible? But today he's one of the richest men, isn't it? So therefore, entrepreneurial school actually say that the strategies, all right, that strategy exists in the mind of the leader. That's why I asked you just now, why was Apple so successful? And all of you were focusing on the product. But actually, it's not the product that made Apple successful. It was Steve Jobs, now Tim Cook, isn't it? So it exists in the mind, all right? Strategy is firmly rooted in what? The experience and the intuition. And this word is important, isn't it? Your instinct, the willingness to take risk. Did you choose option A or did you choose option B? Isn't it? All right, so therefore, in this case, all right, you must be able to create vision and communicate that vision in such a way that people will buy into your vision and they are convinced that your vision is right. And that's all it matters. It's not about the product, how good it is, right? But simply because people are convinced that your vision is right. So in conclusion, while we are all aware that life is full of tough decisions that need to be made, now we must realize this, okay, that quick decisions may not always be the right one. And also remember this, and I always tell people this, what is right is not always popular, and what is popular is not always right. The problem here is that when we make decisions, a lot of us always like to make decisions that are popular, that will please the majority. But that may not actually be the right decision. Correct or not? Alibaba did not come up with, Jack Ma did not come up with Alibaba by pleasing the friend. All his friends told him no. Isn't it? All his friends actually told him no. But he strongly believed in his own vision, in his own dream, and he went for it. So everybody makes mistakes, all right? All of us actually make mistakes, and that's why we put erasers on pencils, isn't it? So therefore, today's, but of course, business acumen itself is a whole subject. But in tonight's lesson, I just want to focus more on decision making. That's all. All right, then of course, we go into blue ocean strategy and stuff like that, but we don't have the time to do that. It's a whole subject on its own. But tonight, I just want to focus on decision making so that you will be able to start thinking perhaps the way you make decisions in the past, you need to change that. Your perspective will need to change, isn't it? Option A, option B. Perhaps the way you justify the decision will need to change. Are there any questions for me? It's already 8:37. Are there any questions for me?
Is there any way to develop the acumen?
You can. Honestly, Adam, if you ask me, when I teach the MBA program, I teach strategic management. Number one, acumen comes with experience. You need to have the domain knowledge, isn't it? Like, for example, Jason is doing regional sales. That's a good start for him. Isn't it? That's a good start because he needs to have that experience in order to know what is right, what is wrong. Now, the question is this, knowing what is right, what is wrong, do you dare to make the next step? See, a lot of us, Jack Ma actually said this very well, He said a lot of us have dreams, but the next morning when we wake up, we still walk the same route, We still take the same road. A lot of us have dreams to become big, to become different, but tomorrow when we wake up, because it's better for us to take the same road because it's safer that way. So business acumen is in all of us. Really, business acumen is really in all of us, The question is, do you dare to take the next step? But a lot of us, like I said, 85, 90% of us will say, we better be safe. Then it goes back to the theory that I told you just now about prospect theory. Do you value gain more or you value loss more? Most of us place more weightage on losses, because we don't want to lose. Kiasu ma Singaporean. So all of us have that. The question here is that, are you prepared to make that next move? I have actually I had an opportunity in teaching many wonderful people who actually have that business sense and that business acumen. Isn't it? They are just waiting for the right time. And I've come across, some of my students are very successful now, So tonight's lesson, the whole purpose is for you to start thinking perhaps the way you make decisions, the way you justify your decisions. All right, are you actually doing it the right way? Do you actually have that business acumen? Do you actually dare to take the risk? To be honest with you, I am more risk adverse. Most of us are more risk adverse, isn't it? All right, are there any questions so far? I hope you all have enjoyed today's lesson. Are there any feedback that you would like to give me? I hope you all have enjoyed today's session. Any feedback? If there is, just let me know.
The Menti and just now the polling system, I think, was pretty fun. It has
Okay.
a nice element to it.
All right, Ken, thank you so much, Adam. And okay, thank you so much. I hope that you all have learned something. All right, of course, the journey is pretty long. All right, I hope that you all have actually learned something. The most important thing, I think, I always tell people this when I teach leadership, the important thing is that we need to know about ourselves. And that's what I want to achieve today, that you start to see yourself, how you have been making decisions. All right, just give me 2 or 3 more minutes. All right, just give me 2 or 3 more minutes. All right, we actually run an MBA program, which is 10 months. And what happened here is that this has been a very successful MBA program, and it will be fully online. Guys, 10 months is very fast. You know, you may think that it is nothing, but 10 months is a long time. You may think that it's a long time, but actually it is not long. You just snap your finger, next year, around March, you are done. All right, so it is pretty intensive. What happened here is that we have got 7 months of non-stop teaching. You just need to dedicate 2 weekends per month, and then 2 weeks to do your assignment, and then you start the next module. So just put aside 7 months, and then you are done. All right, the next intake will be in July, and the registration deadline will be 17th of June. The beauty of this MBA, and I'm not selling anything, I don't work for Aventis. I teach in a few schools. The beauty of this MBA is the network is very strong, because the profile of students coming into the MBA program is totally different. All right, I have got a VP, GM in my class. They have spent a lot of years building their career. Now they are at that stage where they need to get the qualification. So they hop on to this. They are not interested in the marks. They are not interested in INSEAD, Oxford, Harvard. They are not interested in that. So they come and tell me, Frankie, I'm already very successful in life. I mean, last batch, I taught this student who is an Ang Mo guy, you know, a Caucasian. He's from Germany, and now he's a GM based in Vietnam. And he's studying in Vietnam with us. And I actually asked him, why do you even bother to do this MBA? He said, I spent 20 years of my life building my career. Now it is time for me to learn something new. Otherwise, it will become stagnant. I supervised this student 2 years ago. He was the senior VP of Qantas in this region. And he was also studying for this MBA. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that the greatest thing that you can get out of an MBA is the network. Honestly, even if you fail, you won't lose your job. Right? So why bother so much about it, right? But the fact here is that, all right, is the network. I was just talking to a friend a few days ago. He didn't want to study, and I told him he must, because I can see that he's very successful in his career. He only got a bachelor's degree. So I told him he must study for his MBA. He said there is no need now. You don't need it now, but you never know when you will need it. He said you never know when you will need it. I mean, if you have a chance to work for a public listed company one day, and you have a chance to become a COO, they need to profile you. Then profile you what? Polytechnic diploma cannot, man. Isn't it? So therefore, what happened here is that you must have certain qualification in order to give confidence to the shareholders. Now, all of you are already successful in life. Then all you need is just that one qualification that will propel you even further. I'm not selling anything, but it can be any MBA. I'm not particularly selling Roehampton MBA. All right, but don't give up. That's what I'm trying to say. All right, don't give up, but think about it, look around, and quickly get yourself on board and register yourself with an MBA program. I think that is very important, because you never know when you need it. All right, you really never know when you need it. For example, when I was in the 90s, I was studying for my MBA. I asked one of my army friends to join me. At that time, he changed his career, you know, from an engineer to an accountant. He just got his ACCA. He didn't even have a bachelor's degree. He just got his ACCA. So he became an accountant. Today, he's a CFO of a public listed company based in America. The chairman wants to make him the CEO of, all right, the chairman wants to make him the CEO of this region, all right? So what happened? He doesn't even have an MBA. So the boss told him, you must go and get an MBA. And he called me up, he said, Frankie, can you give me tell me which MBA I should study. I don't care. Chop, finish, easy one. I don't care what MBA can be from University or Disneyland. I don't care. All right. So what happened was that I told him if he had done his MBA in the 90s, today he will be the CEO. And in the end, you know what? He lost that opportunity. He actually lost. Now, you may not need it now, but you do not know when you will need it. So it will always be better for you to get it first before by the time you need it, then you have to spend another 1 year to 2 years to get an MBA. By that time, you will lose a lot of opportunity. All right, Ken? All right, so I'm not selling you anything. All right, but it will be good for you to go and think about it. So we are starting one in July, and we will kick off with my subject, strategic management, which is very related to business acumen. And the registration deadline is 17th of June. Are there any questions for me? Are there any further questions? If no, thank you so much. All right, I have enjoyed so much, and I hope you have also enjoyed it. And I do hope that one day I will see you in my class, either in Adventist or any school that I teach in. All right, the world is so small. And if you do meet me, just say hi. Obviously, I won't be able to remember any one of you after tonight. But if you do meet me, just say hi that you attended this session with me. All right, thank you so much and good night. All the best to all of you, yeah? And of course, I hope that one day I will see you in the papers being the entrepreneur of the year. Okay? All right. Remember, don't give up on your dream. All right. Sometimes it will start with a small dream that everybody laugh at you, but that is the dream that is going to make you successful. All right. So believe in yourself. All the best to you. God bless. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Bye.